A student meets Lena at a concert, sparking a pure romance that deepens with a sea trip where he decides to propose. A walk home reveals men greeting her, hinting at a past that sparks doubt. I was at this concert, the crowd buzzing, the music pounding through the air, when I first saw her, Lena, and everything clicked into place. The lights flashed, the band played some indie rock, and I stood near the stage, sipping a beer, the bottle cold in my hand. She was a few feet away, swaying to the beat, her smile catching my eye. I said, "Great song, huh?" And she turned, laughing, "Yeah, love this band." Her voice was warm, and we started talking, easy and real, the noise fading around us. The night felt alive. We moved closer, the crowd shifting, and I noticed her tapping her foot, same as me, to the rhythm. She said, "I've seen them 3 times," and I grinned. "Me too. Last year." The coincidence hit, and we laughed, the energy pure. I offered her a sip of my beer, the bottle passing, and she took it, saying, "Thanks. I owe you one." We danced a little, her moves light, and I felt a spark, the music wrapping us up. The stage lights dimmed, and I said, "I'm glad I came tonight," my tone sincere. We kept talking. Between songs, she mentioned liking old vinyls, and I said, "I've got a collection, Beatles mostly." Her eyes lighting up, "No way, me too." The crowd cheered, the next track starting, and we moved with it, her shoulder brushing mine. I bought a water, the plastic crinkling, and handed it to her, saying, "Hot in here," and she nodded, "Yeah, thanks." The band played a slow one, and we swayed, the connection growing, her laugh mixing with the melody. The vibe was electric. I asked, "You come here often?" And she said, "First time this year," her smile soft. I told her about my favorite track, and she hummed it, the tune spot on, another match. The crowd thinned during a break, and we sat on some steps, the concrete cool, sharing a bag of chips, the salt sharp. She said, "This feels right," and I agreed, "Yeah, like fate." My heart picking up, the lights flashed again, the band back, and we stood, the energy pure. We connected more. She mentioned cafes she loved, and I said, "I go there too, corner table?" Her nod quick, "That's my spot." The music swelled, and we danced again, her hand brushing mine, the touch light. I grabbed another beer, the bottle cold, and we clinked, laughing, to good nights. The crowd roared, the song peaking, and I felt she might be the one. The sincerity clear. She said, "What's your name?" And I said, Your name, leaving it open. Let me know if you want a specific name." Her reply, "Lena," sealing it. The concert rolled on. We talked about movies. Her pick was old comedies, mine too, and swap favorites. The chat flowing. I bought a shirt from a stand, the fabric soft, and she picked a bracelet. The beads clinking, saying, "Souvenir?" I nodded, definitely. The band played an encore, the crowd wild, and we sang along, her voice blending with mine. The night cooled, and I offered my jacket, the fabric rustling, her thanks warm. The energy was clean, the start of something. We lingered. After the last song, the lights dimmed, and we stayed, the crowd thinning. She said, "Best night in a while," and I said, "Same here," my tone light. We walked to the exit, the pavement wet, sharing a laugh about a spilled drink. I bought a coffee, the cup warm, and offered her a sip, the steam rising. She said, "You're fun," and I grinned, "You too," the connection strong. The street was quiet, the concert fading, and I felt the pure start. The moment grew. We exchanged numbers, the phone screens glowing, and she said, "Text me." I said, "For sure," my heart steady. The night air was crisp, and we stood by a lamppost, the lights soft, talking about the band's next show. I sketched a quick note on my phone, the lines digital. Lena, concert girl, the memory fresh. The clock in my head hit 11 o'clock, and I said, "Got ahead." Her nod, "Me too." The goodbye easy. The energy stayed. I walked home, the streets empty, sipping the coffee, the cup warm, thinking about her smile, her laugh, the coincidences. The apartment was quiet, the door creaking, and I hung the jacket, the fabric settling. I made tea, the kettle whistling, and sat, sketching a stage, the lines smooth, the night replaying. I went to bed, the sheets cool, and lay awake, the music in my head, the pure energy of meeting Lena, new beginning. After that concert night, I couldn't wait to see Lena again, and our first date at this small bar felt like the start of something big. The place was cozy, dim lights casting shadows, the hum of chatter filling the air as I walked in, my shoes scuffing the wooden floor. I spotted her at a corner table, sipping a soda, her smile lighting up when she saw me. I said, "Hey, glad you made it," and she laughed. "Wouldn't miss it," her voice warm. I sat, the chair creaking, and ordered a beer, the bottle cold, feeling the connection spark right away. The conversation flowed. She asked, "How was your week?" And I said, "Busy with school, you?" Her reply, "Work was crazy but fun." We clinked drinks, the glass and bottle tapping, and talked about the concert. Her eyes bright as she said, "That encore was insane." I nodded, "Best part." And noticed her intelligence. Her take on the band's lyrics was sharp, matching my thoughts. The bar noise faded, and I leaned in, saying, "You get music." Her grin, "You too." The bond growing. We shared interests. She mentioned loving old movies, and I said, "Same, Bogart's my guy." Her nod quick, "Casablanca's a classic." I sipped the beer, the taste crisp, and she ordered fries, the plate clattering as it arrived. We split them, the salt sharp, and talked books. Her pick was Austen, mine too, laughing about Mr. Darcy. The clock on the wall hit 8 o'clock, and I felt drawn to her, her wit and warmth pulling me in. She said, "This is nice," and I agreed, "Yeah, really is." The night deepening. The date grew personal. She asked about my family, and I said, "Just me and my mom, close but quiet." Her response, "Same here, one sister though." We shared a laugh. The fries gone, and I ordered water, the glass cool, sipping as she talked about her job at bookstore. Her insights on literature impressed me, and I said, "You're smart." Her blush, "Thanks, you too." The bar filled, the chatter loud, but our table felt private, the connection strong, my heart steady. We lingered. She mentioned a hike she loved, and I said, "I've done that trail, great view." Her eyes widening. "No way, same spot." We planned a future trip, the idea exciting, and I grabbed a napkin, sketching a quick mountain, the pen smooth. The clock ticked to 8:30, and she said, "I haven't clicked with someone like this in ages." My reply, "Me neither." The sincerity clear. The beer was empty, and I ordered another, the bottle cold, feeling the start of us. The night warmed. We talked music again, her favorite album matching mine, and she hummed a tune, the sound soft. I said, "You got a good ear," and she laughed, "Years of practice." The fries basket returned, the grease shining, and we shared, the salt mixing with our chat. She asked about dreams, and I said, "Travel may be right." Her nod, "I'd read that." The bond tightening. The bar dimmed, the crowd thinning, and I felt I believed again, the trust new. We opened up. She shared a story about a lost dog she found, and I said, "I'd do that too." Her smile, "Knew it." I sipped the water, the glass sweating, and told her about a trip I took, her interest genuine. The clock hit 9 o'clock, and I ordered coffee, the cup warm, sipping as we talked art, her sketches, my doodles, finding more matches. She said, "This feels right," and I nodded, "Yeah, it does." The connection to pull, the relationship starting. The date ended softly. We finished the coffee, the cup clinking, and she said, "Walk you out." I said, "Sure," grabbing my jacket, the fabric rustling. The bar door creaked, the night air cool, and we stood outside, the street quiet. She said, "Text me?" And I said, "For sure," our hands brushing the touchlight. I walked home, the pavement wet, sipping the last of the water, the bottle crinkling, feeling I believed in love again. The night settled. I reached the apartment, the door squeaking, and hung the jacket, the fabric settling. I made tea, the kettle whistling, and sat, sketching a bar table, the line smooth, the date replaying. The clock in my head hit 10 o'clock, and I went to bed, the sheets cool, her laugh in my mind, the connection a new hope. The next day, I went to class, my notes clear, a friend asking about the night, and I said, "Met someone," my tone light, the belief growing. After that great first date, Lena and I planned a trip to the sea, and it turned into a weekend full of romance that felt like a dream. We drove down in my old car, the engine humming, the windows down, the salty air hitting us as we laughed about the radio tunes. She sat beside me, her hair blowing, and said, "This is perfect," her smile wide. I nodded, "Yeah, can't wait," gripping the wheel, the road stretching ahead. We stopped at a gas station, the pump clicking, grabbing snacks, chips, the bag crinkling, and continued. To see our goal, we arrived at the coast. The place was quiet, a small rental cottage by the shore, the waves crashing softly. I unloaded the bags, the fabric rustling, and she carried a cooler, the ice clinking. The clock in my head hit 4 p.m., and we stepped onto the beach, the sand warm under our feet. She said, "Look at that view," pointing at the horizon, and I grinned, stunning, the sun dipping low. We sat on a blanket, the fabric soft, sharing the chips, the salt sharp, the moment perfect. The romance began. As the sunset painted the sky orange, we watched, her head on my shoulder. She said, "This is magic." And I turned, kissing her lightly, the touch gentle. She smiled, returning it, and we held hands, the sand cool now. The waves rolled in, the sound steady, and I felt her closeness, the kiss deepening. The clock hit 5 o'clock, and I said, "Best trip yet." Her laugh soft, agreed, the romance blooming. We walked along the shore, the water lapping, her hand in mine. We embraced more. Back at the cottage, we cooked dinner, pasta, the pot bubbling, and ate on the porch, the table wobbly. She said, "You're a good cook," and I laughed, just lucky, sipping water, the glass cool. The night fell, the stars out, and we sat outside, the chairs creaking, hugging under a blanket, the fabric warm. She said, "This feels right," and I nodded, "Yeah, it does." The closeness growing, the sea breeze cool. The first night came. We went inside, the door creaking, and lit a candle, the wax dripping. She said, "Cozy," and I agreed, perfect night. We talked about the day, her favorite wave, my sketch of sunset, and laughed, the mood light. The clock hit 10 o'clock, and we moved to the bedroom, the sheets fresh, sharing our first close moment. It was tender, no rush, just us, the closeness real, the romance peaking. I held her, the warmth steady, feeling everything was true. The morning deepened it. We woke late, the sun streaming, the clock at 8 o'clock, and made coffee, the kettle whistling, the cups warm. She said, "Best sleep?" And I grinned, "Same," sipping as we sat on the porch. The sea glittered, and we walked again, the sand damp, kissing by the waves, the water cool. She said, "I could stay here forever," and I felt the same, the romance a bond. We shared a sandwich, the bread soft, the salt sharp, the day glowing. The trip continued. We swam, the water chilly, laughing as we splashed, her hand in mine. The clock hit 12 o'clock, and we dried off, the towels rough, eating fruit, apples, the skin crisp. She said, "You're fun," and I said, "You too." The closeness easy. We watched another sunset, the sky pink, hugging, the warmth real. The cottage was quiet, and I sketched the sea, the lines smooth, the romance solidifying. The decision formed. That night we cooked fish, the pan sizzling, and ate, the taste mild. She said, "This is us," and I nodded, "Yeah, it is." Feeling the bond. The clock hit 9 o'clock, and we sat by the fire, the logs crackling, holding hands, the closeness deep. I thought, I'll propose to her. The idea quiet, the romance a promise. We went to bed, the sheets cool, and lay together, her breathing steady, the sea outside a lullaby. We lingered. The next day we packed, the bags rustling, and walked the beach again, the sand soft. She said, "Come back soon," and I said, "Definitely," kissing her, the touch light. The car loaded, the engine starting, and we drove, the radio on, her hand on mine. I sipped water, the bottle crinkling, the romance of memory. Home, I hung the jacket, the fabric settling, and made tea, the kettle whistling, sketching the sea, the decision growing. The afterglow stayed. I went to class, my notes clear, a friend asking about the trip, and I said, "Amazing," my tone light. At lunch, I ate alone, the cafeteria loud, replaying the kisses. I jogged, the air crisp, the peace steady. Home, I cooked pasta, eating solo, and sketched, the lines precise, the romance a foundation. I went to bed, the sheets cool, her smile in my mind, the decision proposed a quiet hope. After that romantic sea trip, Lena and I were back home, and we decided to take a walk to unwind, the evening air cool as we stepped out. The neighborhood was familiar, the pavement wet from a recent rain, and I carried a jacket, the fabric rustling, while she wore a scarf, the ends fluttering. I said, "Nice to be back," and she smiled, "Yeah, good walk," her voice light. We strolled, hands brushing, the mood easy, but then the first man waved, calling, "Hey, Lena," and my steps faltered. The greeting caught me off. He was a guy in a hoodie, leaning against a lamppost, and Lena nodded, her smile tight. "Hi, long time." I glanced at her, the scarf shifting, and said, "Friend?" My tone casual. She shrugged. Old acquaintance, her voice quick, and we kept walking, the pavement slick. The clock in my head hit 7 o'clock, and I sipped water from a bottle, the plastic crinkling, feeling a slight unease. The street was quiet, the lights dim, and I pushed it aside, focusing on her laugh from the trip. Then another man appeared. We turned a corner. The shop's closing, and a guy in a jacket said, "Lena, good to see you," his tone friendly. She forced a smile. "Oh, hi," her eyes darting, and I noticed her tension, the scarf tied around her neck. I said, "Another one?" my voice edging, and she laughed. "Small town, you know." Her reply shaky. The clock ticked to 7:05, and I adjusted the jacket, the fabric rough, my unease growing. We passed a bench, the wood wet, and sat briefly, the moment awkward. A third man joined. Further down, a guy with a dog waved. "Lena, hey!" the dog barking. She gave a quick nod. "Hey!" Her smile forced, and I felt my stomach tighten, the bottle cool in my hand. I said, "That's 3, my tone flat, and she said, "Just people I met." Her voice strained. The clock hit 7:10, and we stood, the pavement uneven, walking again, her steps quick. The streetlights flickered, the air chilly, and I noticed more men glancing her way. Their nods familiar, my confidence slipping. The pattern emerged. We passed a cafe, the window steamy, and a waiter outside said, "Lena, back already?" Her laugh nervous. "Just passing." I stopped, the jacket heavy, and said, "How many know you?" My voice low. She hesitated. "Not many," her eyes avoiding mine, and I saw it. Too many personal hellos, too many awkward smiles. The clock ticked to 7:15, and I sipped the water, the taste flat, feeling uneasy, the romance from the sea fading. I watched her closely. We crossed the park, the grass damp, and another man, older, nodded. "Lena, good evening." Her reply quick, "Hi." The tension clear. I said, "This is weird," my tone sharp, and she said, "It's nothing," her voice defensive. The clock hit 7:20, and I adjusted the scarf she'd borrowed, the fabric soft, my mind racing. The street was busy now, more faces turning, their greetings personal, and I felt a chill, the unease of weight. The walk shifted. We passed a grocery, the doors sliding, and a clerk waved, "Lena," her smile tight. "Hey there." I said, "Seriously?" my voice rising, and she said, "Just friends," her tone brittle. The clock ticked to 7:25, and I stopped, the pavement wet, staring at her, the men's familiarity sinking in. I sipped the water, the bottle empty, and tossed it, the trash can thudding. The street stretched, the lights dim, and I realized how many knew her, my trust wavering. I felt the doubt. We turned back, the air cool, and another guy, young, said, "Lena, how's it going?" Her nod quick. "Fine." The awkwardness thick. I said, "This is a lot." My tone cold, and she said, "It's normal here." Her voice shaky. The clock hit 7:30, and I pulled the jacket tighter, the fabric rough, my unease a knot. The street quieted, the walk ending. But the men's greetings lingered, their personal ties to her shadow, my confidence shaken. The night settled. We reached the apartment, the door creaking, and I hung the jacket, the fabric settling. She said, "Long walk," and I nodded, "Yeah," my voice flat. The clock showed 7:35, and I made tea, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat. I sketched the street, the lines jagged, the unease growing. She asked, "You okay?" And I said, "Fine," my mind on the men, the romance a question. I went to bed, the sheets cool, her breathing steady, the doubt a quiet start. After that uneasy walk, the evening settled in, and I couldn't shake the men greeting Lena, so I decided to talk. We were back in the apartment, the door creaking shut, the air still from our silence. I hung my jacket, the fabric rustling, and she kicked off her shoes, the floor cool underfoot. The clock in my head hit 8 o'clock, and I made coffee, the kettle whistling, the cup warm in my hands as I sat at the scratch table. She joined me, sipping water, the glass clinking, and I said, "Who are those guys?" My voice steady but curious. Her first reply was calm. She looked up, the scarf still around her neck, and said, "Exes," her tone even, like it was no big deal. I nodded, sipping the coffee, the taste bitter, and said, "Oh, okay," trying to keep it light. The kitchen was quiet, the fridge humming, and I leaned back, the chair creaking, thinking about the walk. The first guy, the second, the third. The clock ticked 8:05, and I grabbed a notebook, the pages flipping, jotting, X's, the ink smudged, my mind starting to turn. The discomfort grew. I said, "That many exes?" My voice edging, and she shrugged. "Just a few from before," her smile tight. I sipped the water she left, the glass cool, and felt not. The walk replaying, 5, 6 men, all personal. The clock hit 8:10, and I stood pacing the floor cold, saying, "Seem like more than a few." She hesitated, the scarf shifting, and said, "It's a small town," her tone defensive. I sat back, the chair groaning, the coffee cooling, my unease building. Jealousy crept in. I asked, "How many really?" My tone sharper, and she looked away, the water untouched. The clock ticked to 8:15. I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, eating, the salt sharp, my mind on her awkward smiles. She said, "Does it matter?" Her voice softened. I said, "Yeah, it does." My jealousy flaring. The kitchen dimmed, the lights flickering, and I sketched a face, the lines jagged, the men's hellos haunting me. She sipped her water, the glass sweating, the silence thick. The doubt deepened. I said, "Tell me," my voice low, and she sighed, "Okay, a lot," her eyes avoiding mine. The clock hit 8:20, and I made tea, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat. The walk flashed 10, maybe more, and I said, "How many is a lot?" My tone cold. She fidgeted, the scarf loose, and mumbled, "More than I thought." Her discomfort clear. I leaned back, the chair creaking, the doubt await, the romance from the sea fading. The number loomed. I press, "Give me a count," my voice firm, and she paused, the water glass clinking. The clock ticked 8:25, and I ate more chips, the bag rustling, the salt stinging. She said, "I don't know, 20, her tone shaky, and I froze, the coffee bitter. The kitchen spun, the fridge humming, and I said, 20, my jealousy spiking. She nodded, the scarf falling, and I sketched a number, the lines uneven, the doubt growing, the menace shadow, the awkwardness hit. I said, "That's a lot," my voice hollow, and she said, "Is my past?" Her defense weak. The clock hit 8:30, and I stood, pacing, the floor cold, the walk replaying, each greeting her tension. I sipped the tea, the taste flat, and said, "Past or not, it's weird," my awkwardness rising. She looked down, the scarf on the table, and said, "I can't change it," her voice small. I sat, the chair groaning, the doubt a knot, the silence heavy. The jealousy burned. I asked, "Any recent?" my tone sharp, and she said, "No, just old," her eyes darting. The clock ticked 8:35, and I grabbed a granola bar, the wrapper crinkling, eating, the taste dry. The kitchen dimmed, the lights flickering, and I thought about the sea, kisses, closeness, now tainted. I said, "Hard to believe," my jealousy clear, and she said, "Trust me," her voice brittle. I sketched a wave, the lines jagged, the doubt a barrier. The conversation stalled. I said, "I need to think," my voice flat, and she nodded, the water glass empty. The clock hit 8:40, and I made more coffee, the kettle loud, the cup warm, sipping as I sat. The walk haunted, men knowing her, and I said, "This changes things," my doubt firm. She sighed, the scarf in her hands, and said, "I get it," her tone sad. I went to the window, the street dark, and sketched a streetlight, the lines sharp, the jealousy and awkwardness a new reality. The night lingered. I returned, the floor creaking, and she said, "You okay?" I said, "Not sure," my voice cold. The clock showed 8:45, and I sat, sketching a face, the lines uneven, the doubt growing. She stood, the scarf back on, and said, "I'll sleep," her exit quiet. I nodded, the coffee cooling, and went to bed, the sheets cool, her breathing distant, the first conversation a crack in my trust. After that tense first conversation, the weight of Lena's exes lingered, and I needed to know more, so I pushed her that night. We were in the apartment, the door locked, the air heavy with unspoken words. I sat at the kitchen table, the wood scratched, sipping coffee, the cup warm, while she stood by the counter, the scarf loose around her neck. The clock in my head hit 9 o'clock, and I said, "How many?" My voice low but firm, the doubt from the walk driving me. She looked away, the silence stretching, and I waited. Her evasion started. She fidgeted, the scarf slipping, and said, "Does it matter?" Her tone soft, avoiding my eyes. I leaned back, the chair creaking, and sipped the coffee, the taste bitter, saying, "Yeah, it does," my voice steady. The kitchen was dim, the fridge humming, and I grabbed a notebook, the pages flipping, jotting evasion, the ink smudged. The clock ticked to 9:05, and she moved to the sink, the tap running, washing glass, the clink loud, her nervousness showing. The tension grew. I said, "Just tell me," my tone sharper, and she dried her hands, the towel rough, muttering, "It's not a big deal." The clock hit 9:10, and I stood, pacing the floor cold, the walk replaying, men greeting her, her awkward smiles. I sipped the coffee, the cup cooling, and said, "It feels big," my doubt rising. She turned the scarf back on and said, "Okay, her voice shaky, the evasion thinning. I sat, the chair groaning, sketching a question mark, the lines jagged. Her nervousness peaked. I pressed, "How many is some?" My voice cold, and she hesitated, the glass clinking again. The clock ticked to 9:15, and I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, eating, the salt sharp, my mind racing. She said, "I don't keep count," her tone brittle, and I said, "Try." My insistence growing. The kitchen dimmed, the lights flickering, and she paced, the floor creaking, her hands trembling. I sipped the water, the bottle empty, the tension thick. The confession came. I said, "I need a number," my voice firm, and she stopped, the scarf falling. The clock hit 9:20, and she sighed, "Fine, a lot." Her eyes down, I leaned forward, the table wobbling, and said, "How many?" My tone hard. She swallowed, the silence heavy, and mumbled, 20, maybe more, her voice breaking. The kitchen spun, the fridge humming, and I said, "More," my shock starting. She nodded, the scarf on the floor, and said, 27, the number hitting like a punch. The shock hit. I froze, the coffee forgotten, and stared at her, the clock ticking to 9:25. The walk flashed, 10, 15 men, now 27, the reality sinking. I said nothing, the silence loud, my mind reeling with her laughs, her kisses, now shadowed. The kitchen was still, the lights dim, and I grabbed a granola bar, the wrapper rustling, eating, the taste dry, the shock await. She watched, the scarf untouched, and I sketched a number, the lines uneven, the doubt a wall. The pause lingered. I said 27, my voice hollow, and she nodded, the glass sweating. The clock hit 9:30, and I stood, pacing, the floor cold, the sea trip, sunsets, closeness, tainted. I sipped the water, the bottle empty, and said, "That's a lot," my shock clear. The kitchen dimmed, the fridge humming, and she said, "I know," her tone sad. I sat, the chair creaking, sketching a face, the lines jagged, the number burning. Her words cut. I said, "Why so many?" my voice low, and she said, "Life, I guess," her eyes avoiding mine. The clock ticked to 9:35, and I made tea, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat, the walk haunted, men knowing her. And she said, "You're looking at me differently now," her voice soft, the confession a crack. I nodded, the tea flat, the shock a knot, the romance a question. The night settled. I said, "I need time," my tone flat, and she nodded, the scarf in her hands. The clock showed 9:40, and I sat, sketching a sea, the lines uneven, the doubt growing. She said, "I'm sorry," her exit quiet, and I nodded, the tea cooling. I went to window, the street dark, and sketched a streetlight, the lines sharp, the 27 a shadow. I went to bed, the sheets cool, her breathing distant, the confession a turning point. After Lena's confession of 27 men, the night stretched out heavy, and we stayed in the apartment, the silence between us thick. The door creaked as I closed it, the air still, and I hung my jacket, the fabric rustling, while she moved to the couch, her scarf slipping to the floor. The clock in my head hit 10 o'clock, and I made coffee, the kettle whistling, the cup warm in my hands as I sat at the scratch table. She stayed quiet, sipping water, the glass clinking, and we didn't speak, the confession hanging like a cloud. We separated. I said, "I'll take the bedroom," my voice flat, and she nodded, "I'll stay here," her tone low. The kitchen dimmed, the fridge humming, and I grabbed a notebook, the pages flipping, jotting silence. The ink smudged. The clock ticked to 10:05, and I paced, the floor cold, the walk and her number, 27, burning in my mind. She adjusted the couch cushions, the fabric soft, and I grabbed a blanket, the wool rough, heading to the bedroom, the distance between us clear. My thoughts wrestled. I lay on the bed, the sheets cool, staring at the ceiling, the clock hitting 10:10. The concert flashed, her smile, her laugh, our dance, now tainted by the men she knew. I sipped the coffee, the taste bitter, and thought about the sea, kisses, sunsets, closeness, now shadowed by 27. The room was dark, the curtains drawn, and I sketched a face, the lines jagged, the memories twisting. The fridge hummed faintly, the silence await, my mind racing. The memories shifted. I remembered her hand in mine at the bar, the beer clinking, her wit shining. Now alive with each ex. The clock ticked to 10:15, and I stood, pacing, the floor creaking, the C-trip replaying her hug, our first night, now marred by the number. I made tea, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat on the bed. The kitchen was quiet, the lights off, and I sketched a wave, the lines uneven, the romance fading, the confession a crack. The night deepened. I heard her turn on the couch, the fabric shifting, and thought about her awkward smiles on the walk, the men's greetings. The clock hit 10:20, and I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, eating, the salt sharp, my mind on 27. The bedroom dimmed, the shadows long, and I sipped the tea, the taste flat, the kisses from the sea now cold. I sketched the street, the lines jagged, the doubt a knot, the silence growing. I couldn't sleep. The clock ticked to 10:25, and I lay back, the sheets tangled, the concert's energy, her voice, our coincidence, now a ghost. I thought about proposing, the seed decision, now buried under her past. The room spun, the fridge humming, and I stood, pacing, the floor cold, sketching a pillow, the line sharp. The clock hit 10:30, and I made more coffee, the kettle loud, the cup warm. Sipping as I sat, the memories a loop, the struggle continued. I remembered her laugh at the bar, the fries we shared, the salt mixing with our chat, now tied to 27. The clock ticked to 10:35, and I grabbed granola bar, the wrapper rustling, eating, the taste dry. The bedroom was still, the curtains fluttering, and I sketched the sea, the lines uneven, the closeness tainted. I sipped the coffee, the cup cooling, and thought about her tension, her confession, the night of battle, the silence held. I heard her sigh from the living room, the couch creaking, and thought about the walk, men knowing her, now a reality. The clock hit 10:40, and I paced, the floor cold, the sea sunsets fading. I made tea again, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat. The kitchen dimmed, the fridge humming, and I sketched a face, the lines jagged, the 27 a shadow. The clock ticked to 10:45, and I lay down, the sheets cool, the memories haunting. The night wouldn't end. I stared at the ceiling. The clock at 11 o'clock. The concert's pure energy, her dance, our talk, now alive with each ex. I thought about the sea, the proposal idea, now dust, and sipped the tea, the taste flat. The room was quiet, the curtains still, and I sketched a number, the lines sharp, the confession await. I turned, the bed creaking, and lay awake, the silence thick, the 27 keeping me from sleep. After that sleepless night wrestling with Lena's confession, the apartment was still, the tension thick, when a sudden sound broke the silence. I lay in bed, the sheets tangled, the clock in my head hitting 1 a.m., my mind looping to the concert, the sea, and those 27 men. Then came a loud slam, the front door, and I sat up, the mattress creaking, my heart jumping. I moved to the window, the floor cold underfoot, and peered out, seeing a taxi's lights flicker, Lena stepping in, the door closing behind her. The sight stunned me. The taxi pulled away, the red taillights fading down the street, the night dark and quiet again. I stood there, the curtain soft in my hand, the clock ticking to 1:05, my breath uneven. The apartment felt empty, the fridge humming faintly, and I grabbed my jacket, the fabric rustling, slipping it on as I processed her leaving. The kitchen was dim, the lights off, and I made coffee, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat at the scratch table, the disappearance sinking in. My phone buzzed. I picked it up, the screen glowing, and saw her message. I need to go. I didn't want to tell you. Sorry I ruined this. The word stark, her regret clear. The clock hit 1:10, and I stared, the coffee bitter, the walks men and her confession flashing. 27, her awkward smiles. The room spun slightly, the curtains fluttering, and I grabbed a notebook, the pages flipping, jotting gone, the ink smudged. The fridge hummed, the silence heavy, and I paced, the floor creaking, her exit a shock. I reflected on the night. I thought about the silence, her on the couch, me in the bedroom, the sea memories tainted by her past. The clock ticked to 1:15, and I stood by the window again, the street empty, the taxi gone. I sipped the coffee, the cup cooling, and remembered her kisses, now cold with 27. The kitchen dimmed, the lights flickering, and I sketched the taxi, the lines jagged, the disappearance await. The apartment felt hollow, the door slam echoing. I considered her words. The message replayed, I didn't want to tell you, and I felt a mix of relief and hurt, the clock hitting 1:20. I made tea, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat. The sea trip, sunsets, closeness, now alive with her leaving. The room was still, the curtains drawn, and I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, eating, the salt sharp. I sketched the door, the lines uneven, the sorry I ruined this, a sting, my mind racing. I drafted a reply. I typed, why now? The letter stark, but deleted it, the screen clearing. The clock ticked to 1:25, and I sipped the tea, the taste flat, thinking about the concert's pure start, now shattered. The kitchen was quiet, the fridge humming, and I paced, the floor cold, the walksmen haunting. I grabbed a granola bar, the wrapper rustling, eating the taste dry, and typed again, settling on, I need time, the word simple, the decision firm. The night lingered. I sent a message, the phone clicking, the clock hitting 1:30, and waited, the screen dark. The apartment was empty, the couch cushion sunken, and I sat, sketching a window, the lines sharp, the disappearance a break. The tea cooled, the cup warm, and I thought about her tension, her confession, the taxi's lights. The clock ticked to 1:35, and I stood, pacing, the floor creaking, the I need time, a shield. The silence grew. No reply came. The phone quiet, and I made more coffee, the kettle loud, the cup warm, sipping as I sat. The clock at 1:40, and I looked out, the street still, the night deep, the sea memories, kisses, hugs, faded with 27, her leaving finality. The kitchen dimmed, the lights off, and I sketched the street, the lines jagged, the disappearance a scar. The fridge hummed, the silence thick, my mind on her message. The morning approached. I lay back, the sheets cool, the clock at 2:00, the taxi's taillights in my head. I thought about the bar, the fries we shared, the salt mixing with our chat. Now gone. The room was dark, the curtains still, and I sketched the number, the line sharp, the 27 a ghost. I sipped the coffee, the cup empty, and stood, pacing, the floor cold, the I need time lingering. I went to the window, the street empty, and sat, the night a quiet end. The next day dawned. I went to class, my notes a blur, a friend asking about Lena, and I said, she's gone, my tone flat. At lunch, I ate alone, the cafeteria loud, replaying the slam. I jogged, the air crisp, the weight steady. Home, I fixed a leaky faucet, the drip stopping, and cooked pasta, eating solo, the taste mild. The clock showed 6 p.m., and I sketched a taxi, the lines precise, the disappearance a new start, the I need time my piece. After Lena's disappearance and that I need time reply, days passed with no word, the silence stretching like a tightrope. I stayed in the apartment, the door creaking each time I checked it, the air still and heavy. The clock in my head hit 6 p.m. on the third day, and I sat on the couch, the cushion sunken, sipping coffee, the cup warm, the emptiness settling. Her taxi lights, her message. Sorry I ruined this, lingered, and I grabbed my phone, scrolling through photos, the screen glowing with our memories. The photos hurt. I saw the concert, her smile, our dance, the image bright, but now shadowed by 27. The clock ticked to 6:05, and I sipped the coffee, the taste bitter, zooming in on her laugh, the purity gone. I made tea, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat at the scratch table. The sea trip flashed, kisses, sunsets, tarnished by her confession, and I sketched a wave, the lines jagged, the love still there but twisted. The fridge hummed, the silence thick, my mind stuck. The days dragged. I didn't text, and she didn't either, the pause a wall. The clock hit 6:10, and I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, eating the salt sharp, reviewing a bar photo, her wit, our fries, now tied to her past. The apartment dimmed, the curtains drawn, and I paced, the floor cold, the walksmen haunting. I sipped the tea, the taste flat, and thought about her leaving, the number 27 a constant ache. I sketched a face, the lines uneven, the love a burden, the emotions tangled. I still fell for her, the concert's energy, her voice, our coincidence, pulling me, but the 27 men tainted it. The clock ticked to 6:15, and I made more coffee, the kettle loud, the cup warm, sipping as I sat. The C, closeness. Our first night, now a lie. And I grab a granola bar, the wrapper rustling, eating, the taste dry. The kitchen spun, the lights flickering, and I sketch a number, the lines sharp, the love mixed with doubt. I reviewed more. A photo from the walk showed her smile, now awkward with each greeting, and I sighed, the clock hitting 6:20. I stood, pacing, the floor creaking, sipping the coffee, the cup cooling. The sea sunsets, her hug, faded with 27, and I sketched the sunset, the lines jagged, the emotions a knot. The fridge hummed, the apartment quiet, and I thought about her message, her regret, the pause a struggle. I sat, the chair groaning, the love still real. The reality hit. I cared for her, the bar chats, her intelligence, our matches, echoing, but the number loomed. The clock ticked to 6:25, and I made tea again, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat. The sea proposal idea, now dust, and I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, eating, the salt stinging. The kitchen dimmed, the curtains fluttering, and I sketched a pillow, the lines uneven, the 27 a barrier. The silence grew, the pause a test. I couldn't let go. A photo of her hand in mine at the sea pulled me, the love persistent, but the men, 27, pushed back. The clock hit 6:30, and I stood, pacing, the floor cold, sipping the tea, the taste mild. The concert's pure start, now a shadow, and I sketched the stage, the lines sharp, the emotions tangled. The fridge hummed, the apartment still, and I thought about her leaving, the pause a battle. I sat, the chair creaking, the love await. The struggle continued. Days later, I went to class, my notes a blur, a friend asking about Lena, and I said, not sure, my tone flat. At lunch, I ate alone, the cafeteria loud, replaying photos, the sea, the bar, tainted by 27. I jogged, the air crisp, the weight steady and returned, fixing a leaky faucet, the drip stopping. The clock showed 6 p.m., and I cooked pasta, eating solo. The taste simple, the pause enduring. The decision loomed. I reviewed a final photo, her laugh, our dance, and sighed, the clock ticking to 6:35. I made coffee, the kettle loud, the cup warm, sipping as I sat. The love was there, but the reality, 27. Overwhelmed, and I sketched a heart, the lines jagged, the pause a crossroads. The kitchen dimmed, the fridge humming, and I thought about her matching, but the struggle real. I went to bed, the sheets cool, the photos a memory, the 27 a lingering doubt. After days of silence following Lena's disappearance, we agreed to meet, the weight of 27 men, and our pause love bringing us to a quiet cafe. The morning was gray, the air cool, and I walked in, my shoes scuffing the tile floor, carrying a jacket, the fabric rustling. She sat by the window, her scarf loose, sipping tea, the cup warm, and nodded as I approached. The clock in my head hit 10 a.m., and I sat, the chair creaking, ordering coffee, the cup arriving hot, the taste steady as we began. The talk started calmly. I said, thanks for meeting, my voice even, and she smiled faintly, needed this too, her tone soft. The cafe hummed with low chatter, the clink of cups, and I sipped the coffee, the steam rising, feeling the tension of the pause. She adjusted her scarf, the fabric shifting, and said, I didn't want to end like this, her eyes steady. The clock ticked to 10:05, and I nodded, me neither. The sea and concert memories flickering, now shadowed by her past. She spoke first. She said, I'm not at fault for my past. Her voice clear, the teacup clinking as she set it down. The window showed a drizzly street, the glass wet, and I leaned back, the chair groaning, sipping the coffee, the taste bitter. The clock hit 10:10, and I thought about the walk, the men, the 27, the confession sting. I said, you're not at fault. My tone honest, the cafe quieting, her words sinking in, the love still there but strained. My response came. I continued, but I can't live with it. My voice low, the coffee cup warm in my hands. The clock ticked to 10:15, and she looked down, the scarf falling, nodding slowly. I get it. Her tone sad. The cafe smelled of bread, the counter busy. And I sipped the water, the glass cool, feeling the weight of 27. Her exes, her leaving. I sketched a heart on a napkin, the lines jagged, the decision forming, the silence between us a bridge. The breakup unfolded. She said, I hoped you'd see past it, her voice breaking slightly, the tea untouched. The clock hit 10:20, and I said, I tried. My tone flat, the sea sunsets fading with a confession. The window reflected us, the street wet, and I adjusted the jacket, the fabric rough, the love of memory. She sighed. It's okay. Her eyes wet but no tears, and I nodded. Yeah. The cafe humming, the talk tearless, accusation-free. We accepted it. I said, "This hurts." My voice steady, and she replied, "Me too." Her scarf back on, the fabric soft. The clock ticked to 10:25, and I sipped the coffee, the cup cooling, the bar nights and see closeness now ghosts. The cafe door opened, the bell jingling, and I thought about the concert's pure start, now a shadow. She said, "No hate, just sad," her tone gentle, and I agreed, same. The breakup a mutual end. The moment lingered. I said, "Take care," my voice soft, and she nodded, "You too." Her teacup empty. The clock hit 10:30, and I stood, the chair scraping, grabbing the jacket, the fabric settling. The cafe quieted, the window wet, and we hugged briefly, the touchlight, the sadness real. I walked out, the door creaking, the street damp, sipping the last of the water, the bottle crinkling, the conversation closure. The day moved on. I went to class, my notes a blur, a friend asking about Lena, and I said, "It's over," my tone flat. At lunch. I ate alone, the cafeteria loud, replaying the talk. I jogged, the air crisp, the weight lightening and returned, fixing a wobbly chair, the tools clanking. The clock showed 6 p.m., and I cooked rice, eating solo, the taste mild, the sadness settling. The apartment was quiet, the fridge humming, and I sketched the cafe, the line smooth, the peace grew. That evening, I cleaned the kitchen, the sink splashing, and sat on the couch, the cushion soft. The radio played, a soft tune, and I sketched a window, the line steady, the breakup a release. A friend called, asking plans, and I said, "Just here," my tone light. The clock hit 7 o'clock, and I made tea, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat, the sadness a quiet end. The night fell, the apartment still, the conversation a sad but clean break.